It was just another busy afternoon in the small diner, tucked between tall office buildings and noisy streets. The staff were running around, trying to keep up with orders, and customers were busy with their meals and conversations. No one paid much attention to the man sitting quietly in the far corner, just a man with tired eyes, dressed in plain jeans and a jacket, watching over a young boy next to him. The boy looked about 8 or 9 with a calm face and big eyes. That stared at his plate. He didn't say much. He didn't move much either. He sat with his back slightly hunched, hands resting on the table, waiting. Some people glanced at them, then looked away. Others simply avoided the table altogether. Maybe they felt uncomfortable. Maybe they didn't understand, but one person truly noticed. A waitress, wearing a slightly faded uniform and a warm smile, walked over to the table with slow steps. She held a notepad in one hand and a glass of water in the other. Her eyes softened as she looked at the boy. "Hey there," she said gently, kneeling a little to get closer to the boy's eye level. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" The boy didn't answer. He blinked slowly, his head turning just a little. The man sitting across from him, his father, watched quietly. "He doesn't talk much," the man said, his voice low. The waitress nodded like she already knew. "That's okay," she whispered. She placed the glass in front of the boy and added, "I'll bring something soft and warm for him. Something he might like." She didn't ask if he could pay. She didn't ask what was wrong with the boy. She just acted with kindness, as if she had all the time in the world. The man, who was actually a billionaire, kept watching. He didn't say it, but inside he was surprised. Shocked even. He'd eaten in places 3 times as expensive, where people looked down at him when they noticed his son. Some even asked him to leave or offered to seat him somewhere private, which was their way of hiding them. But this young woman, this tired waitress in an old diner, was treating his son like any other child. She returned a few minutes later with a plate of mashed potatoes, soft vegetables, and a little bowl of soup. She didn't rush. She cut the food into small pieces, gently placed a napkin on the boy's lap, and helped him hold his spoon. "There you go, baby," she said sweetly. "Take your time." The boy tried. A little spill here and there, but she didn't mind. She cleaned it up like it didn't matter at all. The billionaire looked at her, trying to understand. Why was she doing this? She didn't know who he was. She didn't know about his wealth, his name, or his power. To her, he was just another tired man with a child who needed help. He took a sip of his coffee and looked out the window for a moment, trying to control the strange feeling in his chest. He hadn't felt this in a long time. Gratitude? Hope? Maybe both. He looked around. Other waiters were rushing. No one stopped to smile. No one noticed how the boy's hand shook a little when he tried to hold the spoon. No one cared that the man hadn't touched his own food because he was focused on his son. But she did that as the meal continued. The waitress came back twice to check on them. She didn't ask for tips. She didn't pressure him to order more. She simply offered what she could, her time, her kindness, and a soft voice that made the boy a little calmer with every passing minute. The boy even smiled once, a small, shy smile that lasted only a second. But the father saw it, and it nearly broke him. He sat still for a long time after the meal. He paid in cash, left a generous tip quietly, and waited for the waitress to return to the table. But she was busy now, helping another table. Still smiling, still moving. He stood up, gently helped his son into the wheelchair, and gave the waitress one last look. She didn't see him leave. He didn't say anything. He just walked out, but in his heart, he knew this wasn't the end. This woman didn't just feed his son. She fed something inside him that had been empty for a very long time. Something he didn't know was still alive. And the next time they met, her life would never be the same again. The next morning, the waitress showed up for work like always. Her shoes were a little worn, her apron a bit stained, but her smile was still there. She didn't know that the man from yesterday had spent the entire night thinking about her kindness, her patience, and the way she looked at his son like he was the most important person in the room. She thought it was just another normal day. But something was about to happen. Around noon, just as the lunch rush was beginning, a black car pulled up in front of the diner. It wasn't just any car, it was long, shiny, and spotless. People inside the diner turned their heads, whispering to each other. Who could that be? The waitress didn't notice at first. She was busy refilling coffee and writing down orders. But then she heard the little bell above the door ring and saw him, the same man from yesterday. Only this time he looked different. He was still wearing simple clothes, but there was something in the way he walked, confident, calm. His eyes searched the room until they found her. She walked over, wiping her hands on her apron. "Oh, hello again," she said kindly. "Your son's not with you today?" "No," he said, giving a small smile. "He's resting." "But I wanted to talk to you." She looked confused. "Is everything okay?" He nodded. "Can we sit for a moment?" She led him to a small booth near the back. He sat down, folded his hands on the table, and looked at her like he was trying to read her soul. "I didn't tell you yesterday," he began slowly, "but I saw what you did. I saw how you treated my son. Not many people do that." She smiled, a little shy. "He's just a kid. He deserved a warm meal, that's all." "No," the man said. "It was more than that." There was a pause. She didn't know what to say. "I've seen people turn away from him. I've been asked to leave restaurants. Some pretend not to see us. But you saw him." She lowered her eyes. "I just did what I thought was right." He took something out of his pocket and placed it on the table. A card, clean, simple. She picked it up and read the name. Then her eyes went wide. "I don't understand," she said. "You're?" He nodded. "Yes, I run a few companies. I usually keep my life private, especially when it comes to my son." She was speechless. "I want to help you," he said gently. "Come see me tomorrow, my office. We'll talk, please." "But why?" she asked, almost whispering. "Because people like you are rare," he replied. "And sometimes one kind act can change everything." A customer called for her in the distance, but she stayed frozen in place. Her hands trembled just a little. She looked at the card again. The address was printed in silver letters. It didn't look like a joke. That the man stood up. "No pressure," he said kindly. "If you don't come, that's okay. I just wanted to say thank you in person." And just like that, he left. She stood there for a long time, staring at the door after it closed. Her heart was racing. Her mind was spinning. The other waitress nudged her. "You okay?" "I think," she said slowly. "Something big just happened." But even then, she didn't know how big. Not yet. The next morning, the waitress stood outside a tall glass building, holding the card in her hand. She had read the address at least 20 times, still not fully believing it was real. Her heart was pounding. Her clothes were clean but simple. She had tied her hair neatly. Still, she felt out of place among the people in suits and polished shoes walking past her. She took a deep breath and walked in. The lobby was quiet and bright, with soft music playing and people typing behind big desks. She walked to the front counter, nervous but steady. I have a meeting," she said, showing the card. The receptionist looked at it, smiled politely, and made a call. "Yes, she's here." Then she nodded to the waitress. "You can go up. He's waiting for you." The elevator ride felt like it lasted forever. She stared at her reflection in the shiny walls and wondered again, why her? She hadn't done anything special. She'd just been kind to a boy who needed help. The doors opened. A quiet assistant greeted her and led her to a large office. The man from the diner was sitting at a wide desk near the window, sunlight pouring in behind him. When he saw her, He stood up and smiled. "I'm glad you came." She nodded, trying to hide how nervous she felt. "I wasn't sure if I should." "I understand," he said. "Please sit." She sat across from him, the desk between them. He leaned forward, hands folded. "I know. This is unexpected," he began, "and I don't want to overwhelm you, but I meant what I said yesterday. You didn't just feed my son. You made him feel safe. You made me feel seen. And that's something I can't forget." She stayed quiet, listening closely. He continued, "I found out a little about you. I hope you don't mind. I know you work double shifts. I know you take care of your mother. I know life hasn't been easy." Her eyes widened. "How did you?" "I have resources," he said simply. "But I'm not here to invade your privacy. I just want to offer you something." She leaned back slightly. "What kind of offer?" He smiled gently. "A chance to start a different life, if you want it." She looked confused, unsure what he meant. "I want to support your education," he said. "If there's something you've always wanted to study, I'll cover it, fully. I'll also make sure your mother gets proper care, and you won't have to worry about bills. And if you're interested, there's a place for you in one of my foundations, where you can work with children or families in need. People like us." Her eyes filled with tears before she could stop them. "This is too much," she whispered. "Why would you do all this for me?" "Because you were there for my son when no one else was," he said softly. "Because this world needs more people like you in places where it matters." She tried to speak, but no words came out. She wiped her eyes, laughing a little through the tears. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything today," he replied. "Take your time, think about it. I'll be here whenever you're ready." She nodded slowly, still in disbelief. As she walked out of the office later, holding a folder with more details about the offer, she paused by the elevator and looked back. He was still standing there, watching her go with a kind smile. And in that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The folder sat on her small kitchen table for 3 days. Every time she passed it, she looked at it, touched it, and walked away. Her heart told her it was real, but her mind kept doubting. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Not in real life. She'd spent her whole life working, worrying, and hoping things would get better. Now a single act of kindness, something she did without even thinking, had brought her here. Her mother noticed something was different. "You've been quiet," she said one morning while sipping her tea. "Is everything okay?" The waitress hesitated, then brought the folder over. "Someone wants to help us," she said. "He's offering me a full scholarship, a job too, and help with your medical care." Her mother looked up, confused. "Who would do that?" "A man I served at the diner. The one with the little boy I helped feed." Her mother listened quietly, her eyes growing soft. "You did a kind thing. Sometimes kindness comes back to you." The next day, with her mother's gentle encouragement, she picked up the phone and made the call. Her voice was shaking, but she spoke clearly. "I'm ready," she said. That week, her life began to change. She was enrolled in a part-time nursing program, something she had always dreamed about but never thought possible. She had quit school years ago to work, and now she was back, older than most students, but more determined than ever. Her new job wasn't in a fancy office. It was in a small community center, part of the Billionaire's foundation. She helped with paperwork, met families going through hard times, and listened to stories that felt so close to her own. She understood them. She didn't look down on anyone. She knew what it felt like to struggle and still smile through it. Every week, she got updates from the doctor about her mother's condition. The treatments were now better, and the bills were being paid quietly, without question. And every Friday evening, without fail, she visited the boy. He still didn't speak much, but he remembered her. His eyes always lit up when he saw her. She brought him little snacks, read to him, and sometimes just sat beside him while he played with a small puzzle. The billionaire often stood nearby, watching in silence. He didn't interrupt. He didn't say much. But in his eyes, you could see peace, the kind that only comes when someone you love is truly cared for. One day, after a quiet visit, the waitress turned to him and asked, "Why did you choose me?" He looked at her for a long moment before answering, "Because you treated my son like he mattered, before you knew who I was. You gave us dignity. You gave him warmth. You didn't ask for anything in return," she smiled softly. "I didn't do much." He shook his head. "You did everything." She looked around at the boy, the center, the book she was now studying. Her whole new life. A life that wasn't rich with money, but filled with purpose. Filled with kindness. Sometimes she still woke up afraid it was a dream. But every day, she stepped into her new world with quiet strength. And it all began with one meal, one smile, one moment of care. Months had passed. The seasons changed. Leaves fell. The air turned colder. But inside the community center, something beautiful was growing: hope, healing, and second chances. The waitress who once rushed between tables and worried about every small bill now walked with quiet confidence. She balanced her nursing classes with her job at the center. She helped people, everyday families in pain, children who needed support, elderly folks who felt forgotten. And through it all, she never forgot why she started this path. The billionaire's son had become a big part of her world. Every week, they spent time together. She had learned how to help him eat more easily, how to communicate through gentle signs and quiet patience. He smiled more now. He laughed sometimes, a soft, honest laugh that melted hearts. One afternoon, while she was helping the boy with his drawings, the billionaire approached and sat beside them. He held a small box in his hand. She looked at him curiously. "What's that?" He handed it to her. "Something for you." She opened it carefully. Inside was a small necklace with a simple charm, two hands holding a heart. Nothing flashy, just meaningful. He spoke gently. "This isn't a reward. It's just a reminder that what you gave my son can't be bought. You gave him kindness without a reason. That's rare in this world." She touched the charm and smiled, deeply moved. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded. "Thank you." From that day on, people at the center noticed something different about her. Not just her kindness, but the light in her eyes. She wasn't just helping others now. She was living her purpose. Years later, she became a nurse, one that patients trusted without hesitation. She never forgot where she came from. She still visited the diner sometimes, now as a guest. She still greeted the waiters with kindness, remembering how one ordinary moment can change a life forever. The billionaire continued to support the foundation, but he always made sure his son's visits with her remained a part of their life. She was not just a helper anymore. She had become family. One quiet evening, as they sat in the garden of the community center, the boy resting beside her, the billionaire looked around at everything they had built. "Do you ever think about that day?" he asked her. She smiled. "Every day." And in that silence, nothing more needed to be said, because in a world full of noise, judgment, and rush, one act of quiet kindness had changed everything.